deep in the heart of Texas.
We're in the business of winning.
Don't bet against me.
I don't bet anyway.
Lose your life.
All right, I want to do a quick video on the Aggies. Catch us up since my last video before Mississippi State. Some things that I saw. I'm going to kind of give some critiques here, but they'll kind of end up being positive in a weird roundabout way. So I did a video for the Mississippi State game. I thought they would struggle because they just don't quite have the playmakers or the explosive ability, I thought, to kind of keep up with A&M. A&M played even better defensively than I thought. They gave up that long touchdown there at the end. The opening drive, Mississippi State came out, kind of just ran it right down our throats. A lot of draws right up the middle. Ended up holding them to a field goal, stopped them in the red zone. And I also had said that I felt our secondary would have the possibility of coming up with a couple turnovers. Now, they didn't quite get them like I imagined. They forced a fumble for one, and Cassius Howell also got a tip on another that they ended up intercepting and picking off. But again, the spread ended up being 17 points before kickoff, which I thought was quite drastic, but we ended up covering that anyways. So that was good to see. Now we move into the Florida game, right? And I thought overall, besides those first two drives by Florida, maybe our most complete game on both sides of the ball. Lagway comes out that opening drive. It just seems like they were going after Des Ricks, and they kind of went after him on two opening drives. And then, we made some adjustments. They weren't able to do it again, right? So that was good to see. And Moss also got hurt in that game. Those are the two big takeaways, because I want to come back to the Lagway hooking up with his receivers going down the field on those first few opening drives. It's one of my big worries or critiques going forward. Obviously, Moss got hurt. At the beginning of before the Notre Dame game, I had said A&M will face this a lot, that they may not have the singular best player at some positions, right? But I think that as a whole, the wide receiver room and the running back room and the offensive line, and now the defense has really stepped up, but I was mainly talking about offense. They are going to be, as a whole, as a group, they're going to be better than perhaps maybe the other team who has a singular guy who maybe he is this model, prototype NFL wide receiver. And, maybe Lagway has got a bigger arm and considered to be a better passer than Reed. And, Love and Price out of Notre Dame, right? They're pretty good, but our collection of running backs will be able to produce as much as them, right? And so if you were to tell me at the beginning of the year that you were going to take a key injury at a position, maybe minus the tight ends or something, honestly, the running back room might be the one place you can afford a hit. I have total faith in Amari Daniels, Owens, and Smith to be able to produce and run hard behind that great offensive line we have, right? So, if you would have told me before the season you got to take an injury key player, I might have taken Moss if you had told me that, right? That, you have to take an injury. Who do you take? I might have said Moss because we are so deep at running back, and they're all very good runners, can catch the ball out of the backfield. That I'm confident that they can hold par for 4 weeks or whatever, and maybe Moss comes back towards the end of the year and gives us some energy, right? But that's that. Lagway hooking up with his receiver. Keep that in mind. Put a pin in that. And then the Arkansas game, right? Maybe we just caught Arkansas. It was their best day, right? Petrino getting hired as the coach, interim coach at least, and them having their first game at home with him. They were hyped up, and Arkansas is one of the better offenses in the nation, right? And Green is obviously quite the player as well. And so, first off, a win is a win. I'll take it. It was a good way, I think, for A&M to get acclimated on the road because they're gonna have LSU this weekend, which we'll talk about, and then they'll have a bye week, and then they'll go on the road to Missouri as well. And then of course they finish after 2 weeks at home. They finish at Texas on the road as well. So I thought this was a good acclimation game. You get a win, a bit of a gut check for the defense, and so my takeaway from the Florida and the Arkansas game is that I think if this defense is going to be exploited, it will be by a dual threat quarterback like that, like Green, who can run and throw. He made some great throws as well. Also missed a few, but obviously is a really good athlete and can break contain a lot easier than some others, right? And I don't know if it's that A&M just took bad angles, definitely bad tackling on a lot of those plays. Bad scheme, bad strategy. Maybe we just don't have the personnel. Can someone like York play spy, keep up with someone like Green? Obviously not, or whatever we were doing was not working. Do we have a guy or two like that somewhere in the roster if we need to pull, an emergency kind of switch up or something? I don't know if we have a guy like that. So that worries me now. And the other thing that worries me is going back to the metaphor of the collection of running backs being really good. Desrix and Lee are two really good corners, right? Are they elite? I don't know. It would be a little closer to being elite than Ricks. But Ricks has had a really good year so far. Also, he's been tested a lot more, right? So he's had a lot more opportunities to prove it, which is good, and also goes to show how good Lee is, right? So, but in terms of two corners, right, you can't really ask for more, right? Is either of them like totally shut down elite? No. But as two cornerbacks, you can't really ask for more out of a group, right? Out of two guys. And again, they went after Ricks there in that Florida game, and that worries me a little bit. So I think that the two biggest ways here is a dual threat quarterback, which, that in itself it's hard to say you're going to face another guy that's going to have a game like Green, right? I know we got Sellers, coming up in 3-4 weeks or whatever, and we'll see how he does it against A&M at Kyle Field. So we'll see about that, but hopefully A&M learned their lesson from that. And, there's only so much you can do with a guy like that. How much can you game plan for a Vince Young or a Manziel type guy, right? There's only so much you can do. The other thing that worries me more, because I think it's more likely to happen, especially as we go into the possibility, knock on wood, of the SEC championship game and a good bowl game, maybe even a playoff spot. Again, we haven't got there yet. And that is a quarterback and a wide receiver duo who's just on the same page, is just clicking. Or a quarterback, the thing about the A&M defense is you can't really sit back there a whole lot. So if you notice with Lagway, I mean, it was 1, 2, 3, turn first read and you're throwing it, right? If you're in the shotgun. So that worries me a little bit, that if we really get matched up with an elite wide receiver, and an elite quarterback like a Ty Simpson and Ryan Williams from Alabama, for example, that's more realistic that we'll see something like that. That worries me. Again, I don't know how many times a team will be able to go to the well on something like that. How productive it will be throwing quick, out passes all game, or quick slants all game. I don't know how sustainable that is against this defense. So there's that as well, and it seems like they adjusted well after those two drives that they picked on Ricks. So, I think seeing those two things, right? The dual threat quarterback where you just missed a bunch of tackles, bad angles, maybe bad scheme, maybe bad personnel. You got away with the win, but you saw it. And so now when Sellers comes to Kyle Field, I feel a little better, right? Sellers, I don't think is quite the speedster that Green is, but he definitely is a good runner. And Arch Manning can run, but he's not really. They can't really be doing that with him as much anymore, and he only does it when he needs to. So I think it's good that we got away with that against Green, and I'm not sure we're gonna see another guy quite like that. Now, obviously, with Lagway in those first two drives, that scares me a little more. And I think those are my kind of gripes here, or my takeaways from those two games, is that's how I think we can lose a game or will lose a game, I think. I also wanted to give a quick concern about Marcel as well. My only concern, right, with the offense largely. Um, and that is, when I was sitting at the Mississippi State game, I was sitting up high. The field was kind of running long ways to us and from us. And I got to see from a bird's eye view sort of how Marcel would see the defense a little bit. And it was confirmed in the Florida game, right? And that is, there just seems to be times he has like no respect for the safety, the high safety, the help safety, coming over. And I don't know, in my opinion, right, I don't think it's because it's a bad read. I think in his mind, he feels with the receivers that he has that either he kind of needs to force it, rather that be because he wants to get them involved, or maybe even from an offensive strategy standpoint. Klein and the guys are telling him, hey, we're going to try and push this one or force it, keep the defense honest, maybe we get a pass interference, right? And I hope it's that and not a bad read, right? Because, I don't know the X's and O's in football like others do, right? But even when I was sitting up there, there were a few times I saw him look deep and he threw it. And even before he let go, like a good second before he let go, I was thinking, don't throw that, right? And he got away. He's been getting away with it. He didn't get away with it in Florida, although he only threw the one pick, right? And it's not very often he goes deep, right? As most people don't go deep that often. But I just hope that it is from a sort of wanting to push the envelope a little bit, get guys involved, see if you can make a play. Maybe you see something, you're testing something, you want to see how the defense reacts maybe. If that's why, I feel a little better. But I do worry sometimes that Reed is either not seeing or not respecting the safety help. And I feel like he got away with one in like Notre Dame. He got away with one, I thought, against Mississippi State. So that's my only critique of Marcel Reed as it stands now. With that being said, why I'm confident going forward is that we're not going to see a whole lot of that going forward. Again, we have a game coming up against LSU. We're a 2.5-point favorite on the road. I think we get a big win. Again, someone like Nussmeier fits the game plan of like a Mississippi State and Auburn, where because you are a pocket passer and you're more of a statue back there, A&M's blitz packages also, or just blitzing in general, also allows them to stop the run. Now, obviously, if the run gets through, you can be a little exposed there, but it's also very hard to run against this team when, again, linebackers are blitzing through the gaps as well. And I really think that's where this defense excels, right? And I think LSU is going to have a hard time against A&M on Saturday. And again, I'm not so much sold on LSU's defense. I think that A&M can get 28 points on this defense, hopefully 24 plus. And that's enough to do it. But again, with the bad things that came out of those last two games with the dual threat, athletic prototype quarterback and the, a quick read to a great elite wide receiver that because again, A&M likes to do press coverage and they're bringing the blitz, right? They're bringing Payne. And they can be exposed with that as well. If you can get it out quick, you can beat the blitz. And if they're going to leave those guys on an island, you can exploit that if you have an elite wide receiver who can make plays, right? So that worries me a little bit. That's my two biggest takeaways, right? And so, I don't mean to be a negative video because it's also positive that I think going forward, I think the defense will revert back to what we saw the last few weeks before the Arkansas game, right? And going forward, I think this defense will continue to play at a really good level. I'm not worried about what happened at Arkansas. Not that it is not a fluke, but I think A, you've seen it once now, and B, I don't think you're going to see another guy like that. Sellers worries me a little bit. We'll see where we're at when that game comes to Kyle Field. That will be the last real game. We have Samford after that, and then we play UT in Austin. So it'll be interesting to see where we're at when that game comes. But to move into LSU, I'm really confident about Saturday. A&M hasn't won there in a long time. Again, I know we're favorites, but I think we come away with a double-digit win. I think the defense is really going to come back and bounce back in a big way against LSU, and I think A&M gets a big win. Again, you can say they've had a bit of a soft schedule since the Notre Dame game. That's fine, right? We'll see where teams that we've played end up at the end of the year and whatnot. But this obviously will be a big win if A&M can get it. It will kind of leave, I think, the doubters, even if there are some people holding out, I think they'll have to come around a little bit at least on this game. I know with A&M, right? It's not real until it's real. So we'll see what happens going forward. But I'm very confident that the defense bounces back in a big way, and hopefully what we saw with A&M scoring 45 points is the future of things to come, right? I thought Smith played really well. E.J. Smith, the running back, that's Emmitt Smith's kid, by the way, which is a nice little connection. I really thought they should have let him get a touchdown against Florida, but that's neither here nor there. So again, Marcel Reed had like a 60-yard touchdown called back on a pretty questionable holding call. And I heard, and I also thought this too when I saw it, that was the fastest I'd ever seen him run. And I was listening, of course, to Texags this morning or whatever, and it was confirmed that the speed they clocked him at was the fastest in-game speed he's gotten that they've measured so far. And I remember thinking when he took off, I thought, like, that's another gear I don't think I've seen him hit yet. And so Marcel's been running a little bit more the last few games, which I think has really added an element to this. Again, he seems to be coming along nicely. He played almost a flawless game against Arkansas when we needed it the most. So that was good to see. So yeah, I mean, those are my negative things about what I saw, what I'm worried about. I think that's how we can lose a game. And fortunately, I don't think we're going to see many of those. If we get to the SEC championship, knock on wood, right, then we might see something like that out of Alabama. But and then in a bowl game or playoff scenario, who knows who we see, right? But that's my big takeaway. I think Aggies get a big win this weekend, 10-point win at least, and hopefully this will even get the doubters to come around, right? So yeah, that's my video. We'll see where we're at after the weekend, and I'll see y'all then.